Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphanlast, aka Skylar Madison, and welcome to the 51 Animation Challenges, where I get this character to change expression, not just with his body language, but with his face as well. Eventually, he will have a face, I guarantee it. But anyways, you can see I'm using the video reference still, and there's a few motions that aren't going on inside of the video reference that I decided to put in. There's a number of reasons for that. There's exaggeration, anticipation, follow-through, little things inside of the principles of animation that I decided to utilize. I don't know if I'm necessarily utilizing them correctly. I hope I am, but things seem to be working out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how this goes, but the specific thing that's not inside of the video reference is this motion right here, where the hips are moving pretty dramatically, and I just kind of wanted to accentuate the recoil action, the action of surprise sort of thing. Generally, whenever you're reading some sort of manual on animation, they say that if an animation isn't working out for you, just go ahead and take a look at the principles of animation, things like exaggeration, anticipation, follow-through, things like that, and see what you can do to improve the animation. Typically, whenever I read that, I think, okay, once you finish an animation and you watch it, just start to finish, if it's not working out, then you did something wrong. But I think this is something that you should keep in mind throughout the entire process of animating. You can follow the movements of a video reference all day long, but the movements can look pretty mechanical. There was one point where this guy was just moving so robotically that I really hated the animation there for a second, and actually had moments of fear in the sense that, oh boy, this isn't going to work out very well, and I'm going to screw up in front of 1,200 people, I believe, is how many subscribers I have, or something like that. Oh boy, that's a big screw up right there. But you know, you just need to keep on thinking about the principles of animation throughout the entire process of animating. You're going to see that once you test out the animation to see how everything's flowing together, one motion to another, to another, to another, things are going to look kind of weird. And so you're going to have to add anticipation. Now, with the anticipation and follow-through movements, what I've oftentimes found is that all it takes is just one frame of anticipation, one frame of follow-through, where you just kind of get the character with follow-through to move just a little bit too far in that specific direction. And then anticipation, just get the character to move the opposite direction just for a split second, for just one frame. If you do it for anything more than that, oftentimes it just looks a little weird. Maybe there are exceptions to the rule, but that's just something that I'm really noticing and getting cemented in my brain for some reason. If there's an experienced animator out there that happens to think differently and can source some sort of example of anticipation and follow-through that takes the course of, I don't know, 4 or 5 frames or something like that, feel free to do so. Because I actually tried that inside of this video, and the motion just didn't seem to work together very well. I kept it in, but I still wound up putting in an extra bit of follow-through with the motion. Now, in the previous video in the 51 Animation Challenges, I shared you guys a link to Darren T's tutorial. One thing that I didn't feel as though was stressed hard enough inside of that specific tutorial is when you activate Shift and Trace and you decide to use them as onion skins, in order to flip through your animation, you need to press and hold F1, press and hold F2, and press and hold F3, and then let go and repeat, repeat, repeat in order to flip through your animation. And I really like this functionality. It is a little bit annoying that it's all the way up there at the function keys, but it works. Also, furthermore, if you go into preferences and go into the onion skins section, you can actually tick a box that allows your Shift and Trace skins to appear the same way that onion skins appear. And when using this Shift and Trace feature this way, I wound up actually replacing 90% of my onion skin work with Shift and Trace work, and it was actually streamlined and better than the default onion skinning workflow. I like this. In fact, I would love to transition my entire workflow this direction. However, there is one caveat, and this is a little bit of a review of the feature. I am falling in love with the Shift and Trace features and everything, especially the ones that have been added. However, just being able to flip through the animation doesn't seem like it's quite enough. You can see, in contrast to my other 51 animation challenges that I've done fairly recently, I don't rely on the onion skins all the time. And I rely on flipping through the animation and doing point-to-point animation quite a bit. This helps me out immensely in visualizing things, and having the onion skins there all the time confuses my ability to actually visualize independently where things should be. And so once I activate the shift and trace feature, it would be nice to actually be able to click on the slash key. It's right next to the right shift button. It's the key that shares the question mark key. It'd be nice to be able to press that slash key and have it so that it makes the shift and trace skins disappear. But the shift and trace feature is still active, so I can still press F1, F2, F3. That's what I would like to see inside of this feature, because it oftentimes makes it so that I want to actually deactivate the shift and trace feature, use my default onion skins, and this means that I need to move my frames into a dump level, and then go ahead and move my keyframes right next to the frame that I'm currently working on, which kind of defeats the whole point of having these new additions into shift and trace. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope that I'm not being too harsh on the feature and the improvements that have been put into it. Don't get me wrong, when push comes to shove, I think I'm going to be using the new shift and trace a heck of a lot more than the default onion skin feature. It just kind of stinks that I have to choose either or, because they both have a huge fundamental flaw. Currently speaking, at least. I know that I ask the developers for a lot, and it's frustrating because I want to say, yes, this feature is complete at this point. It's just, I just don't feel as though it is. If it doesn't allow me to be able to do point to point, I'm not able to think in 3 dimensions. I just wind up seeing the 2 frames all the time, and it feels restrictive. So I wind up having to move my keyframes anyways, regardless of the new ability to move the shift and trace skins to distant areas on the timeline. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope that my frustration actually helps more than it discourages. Because ultimately, I can't imagine there being any more criticisms, any more feature requests specifically towards shift and trace. If we were just able to press that slash button and have our shift and trace skins disappear while still having our shift and trace feature active, that right there would be awesome. It seems a little weird to request that, because the whole point of having shift and trace is to be able to see your shift and trace skins. But I think I'm making sense here. Being able to flip is still very important, even when you don't have your onion skins active. And it's awesome that we have a dedicated feature in shift and trace that allows us to be able to do that on distant portions of the timeline. But it's just, I just don't feel like it's quite there. Of course, you know, I'm just a critic, I guess. I don't really have too much of a say as to what goes in and what doesn't go into the program. Now, if I may be allowed to digress for just a second here and talk a little bit about my channel, last week I posted an OpenTunes news video and it got hit with a copyright strike. The video was taken down and a lot of you guys weren't able to even see it. Fortunately, everything worked out in my favor. The video is back up, and those of you that haven't seen it can now readily access it at any point in time, so good news there. The most frustrating thing about it is that once you get hit by a copyright strike, it's just a baseless accusation. They don't tell you what you're being accused of. They tell you,
You've broken copyright law.
They don't actually tell you what you did.
Oh, you had copywritten music in your video. You shared a document you weren't supposed to. Your voice sounds identical to Tom Cruise. So therefore, we have to take your video down.
No, they don't tell you any of that crap. And no, I don't actually think my voice sounds like Tom Cruise. They don't tell you any of that information. It's really frustrating, and so you find yourself just obsessing about it. I'm glad it's over. I'm really glad it's over. The video's available. You guys can watch it. And that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to click on the bell or follow me on Twitter. If you guys would like to see more of my content, feel free to click on anything that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.